History isn't a list of dates, it's a chain reaction. Pull one thread at the very start, and 1,000 years later, an empire falls, and nobody remembers why. This is a show about the threads nobody connects, the small, forgotten objects that quietly rewired the world. Today's thread is this: a loop of metal you rest your foot in. Follow it, and it builds the night, invents an entire social order, and then hands a peasant the weapon to burn it all down.
That's a lot of pressure for a foot loop.
Welcome to Stan the Stickman, where the simplest little things change everything.
Whoa, whoa. Why am I on a horse? And why is the horse 3 lines?
Because today, you're a knight, Stan. The most expensive weapon ever built.
Finally, respect.
You'll be dead by the end, knocked off that horse by a man holding a pipe.
I want a different episode.
They all end the same way. Let me show you how you got up there in the first place. Here's the problem with fighting on a horse for most of human history. You're balanced on 1,000 pounds of muscle that would rather be eating grass, and nothing's holding you on but your knees. Swing too hard,
and physics throws you off the back. Yeah, I felt that.
For thousands of years, the horse was a taxi. It got you to the fight. It couldn't be the fight. The real killing happened on foot.
So I'm an expensive Uber.
For now, humanity tried everything. Put the man in a box on wheels, taught him to shoot backwards and run away, or he just hugged the horse and hoped.
Do you mind?
He does not. Then, around the 4th century, in China, somebody solves it. 2 loops, one for each foot, the paired stirrup, the most boring invention you can imagine.
It's a foot hammock.
It's a revolution. Brace your feet, and now you can stand, take a hit, and tuck a lance under your arm, and put the entire charging weight of horse and rider behind a single point. You're not a man poking with a stick anymore. You're a guided missile made of meat and iron, hitting at 30 miles an hour.
Okay, the foot hammock is growing on me.
A historian named Lynn White said few inventions were ever so simple as the stirrup, and few had so catalytic an influence on history. Catalytic. It doesn't get used up. It just sits there, quietly, making everything else possible.
A foot hammock with a body count.
There are even reports a Byzantine emperor was drilling cavalry to use them as early as the 580s. It leaks out of China along the Silk Road, and by the 8th century it reaches the Franks in Europe, and it's about to build an entire civilization around you. Meet Charles Martel. Martel means the hammer, which tells you everything. After he stops an invasion at Tours, in 732, he's the most powerful man in Europe, and he wants an army of you, armored horsemen who can finally hit like a battering ram and stay on the horse.
Love that for me. Where's my armor?
That's the problem. One of you costs a fortune. The warhorse, the spare warhorse, the armor, the servants, the years of training, and the king's treasury is empty.
So, I'm unemployed and expensive.
So he makes a deal. He can't pay you in gold. He pays you in land. Take this estate, keep the peasants who farm it, and when I call, you show up, on a horse, in armor, ready to fight.
I'm a landlord with a sword.
You're the top of a pyramid now. King, lords, knights, peasants, land traded for loyalty, loyalty for protection. All the way down. There's a word for that pyramid, Stan.
Please don't say
Feudalism.
And everyone just agreed to this?
They wrapped it in God. You knelt, put your hands inside your lord's hands, and swore a sacred oath. You became his vassal. The land was your fief. Break the oath, and you've betrayed heaven itself.
Sneaky.
And it cascades. The king grants land to great lords, who carve off chunks for lesser knights, who sit on top of the peasants, who grow the food that pays for all of it. Every layer owing the one above, protecting the one below. A pyramid that runs the lives of millions for 1,000 years, and the whole thing balances on the fact that you can finally keep your feet in 2 metal loops.
No pressure on the loops. Wait, did 1 foot loop really invent feudalism? That feels like a stretch.
Historians have literally fought about that for 60 years. They call it the Great Stirrup Controversy.
That's the nerdiest sentence I've ever heard.
But the loop, the heavy cavalry, and the knight all show up holding hands. Watch. But here's where it gets real. Because that little loop didn't just keep you on a horse. It decided who ate, who ruled, and who knelt. For the next 1,000 years, the whole world rearranges itself around the man in the saddle.
Hold on. Why does that guy get rendered and I don't?
He owns 3 villages.
And the horse? Why's his horse painted? And mine is a doodle.
His horse also owns a village, technically.
Fair. The dog? The dog is rendered.
He's a baron's dog, Stan. Know your place. Once the loop builds the knight, somebody has to explain why he gets to be in charge. And around the year 1025, a bishop named Adalbero of Leon writes it down. The first org chart in European history.
An org chart.
3 boxes. Those who pray, those who fight, and those who work. The clergy talk to God. The knights, you, do the violence. And everybody else grows the food that feeds the other 2 boxes.
And which box do I get to pick?
You don't pick, Stan. That's the entire point. God drew the boxes. You're born into yours, and you die in it, and so does your son, and his son, for about 600 years.
So a bishop invented the org chart and forgot to add the promotion arrows.
There are no promotion arrows. There's just the loop at the bottom of it, holding the whole thing up. Here's the problem with building a whole class of men whose only job is violence. On a quiet day, they get bored, and a bored knight is a danger to everyone near him.
I feel personally attacked.
So the church tries something almost sweet, the peace of God. Starting in the year 989, bishops make knights swear on holy relics not to rob churches, or peasants, or pilgrims.
Did that work?
Barely. So they add the truce of God, which is even better. It's a calendar. You are not allowed to fight on Sundays, or during Lent, or Advent, or Easter.
They tried to schedule war, like a gym timetable.
They genuinely tried to give violence office hours, and it sort of worked, 2 days a week, which left 5 days a week with way too many armed young men and absolutely nothing to do. For 500 years, everything orbits the man on the horse. The economy exists to feed him. The land is carved up to equip him.
I'm the sun. I'm literally the sun.
They even invent a moral code, chivalry, to explain why a heavily armed aristocrat is the hero of the story.
I mean, he is though, right? Right.
That's the brochure version. Society even writes itself a tidy little theory. There are 3 kinds of people: those who pray, those who fight, and those who work. Guess which 2 groups came up with the theory?
Not the working one.
Your birth is your destiny, stamped at birth, blessed by the church.
That is the most upsetting office supply I've ever seen.
And to keep the fighting class sharp between wars, They turn war itself into a sport, the tournament. Grown men in a fortune of armor charging each other with the lance, for fun, in front of a cheering crowd.
So I'm a celebrity athlete now too. This episode is looking up.
Enjoy it. It's the high point. And here's what happens. For 500 years, whenever someone at the bottom tries to change his station,
He bounces.
he bounces. The weapons of power cost a fortune. The walls of power are 10 feet thick. The peasant has no move, none. For half a millennium, the answer to, "Can I be more than this?" is just no.
Even the birds giving up on him.
And because you rule the open field, a second invention rises to rule everywhere else, the castle. Walls so thick that if you can't beat the cavalry outside, you just hide behind stone and wait. A good castle could shrug off an entire army until it ran out of food and went home.
So nobody at the bottom ever gets to be real.
Not yet. They need an equalizer. Something cheap. Something that doesn't care how much your armor cost.
What's that little light?
Not yet.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Get the land, get the horse, get the armor, and piece by piece, the world starts treating you like you're real.
Whoa. Did you hear that? I have a sound now.
That's the deal the loop offered. Become the most expensive thing on Earth, and become real.
More. Show me the rest.
All right. And that's the real bug in the machine. The loop doesn't just make knights. It makes too many of them.
How do you have too many knights?
Inheritance. The rule is primogeniture. The eldest son gets everything. The castle, the land, the title. Which means every younger son is born a trained, armored, violent young man with no land and a lot of free time.
Okay, that does sound like a problem.
It's a continent full of spare knights looking for something to stab. And in 1095, a pope named Urban II finds the pressure valve. He stands up at Clermont and points all of them at Jerusalem.
He just aimed the surplus overseas.
Europe exports its extra violence, and here's the detail I love. Urban II was himself a second son. He knew exactly who he was talking to. And for the ones who stayed home, the whole violent system turns into a sport, with a business model.
A sport.
The tournament. And don't picture something gentle. A single melee near a town called Neuss in 1241 killed around 60 knights in one afternoon.
That's not a sport. That's a casualty report.
But here's the engine that makes it run. Ransom. You beat a knight, you take his horse, his armor, and a cash fee. Win enough, and you get rich.
How rich?
There's a man named William Marshall who captured over 500 knights in his career. He got so wealthy and so famous tackling men off horses that he married an heiress and ended up running England as regent at the age of 70.
He tackled his way into governing a country.
The loop turned a footrest into a caste, the caste into an army, and the army into a career ladder you climbed by stealing other men's horses. And all of it, every bit, is about to be erased by a man with a week of training and a metal pipe. For 5 centuries, that was the most powerful thing a human being could become. Remember that little light?
I was hoping you forgot about it.
Now, here's the cruel joke. The same civilization that drew you the stirrup wasn't finished. Centuries earlier, Chinese alchemists went looking for a potion to let an emperor live forever. They mixed saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal and invented the precise opposite: gunpowder, fire medicine.
I don't like where this is going.
At first they used it for beauty, fireworks, signals, light in the night sky. But it never takes our species long to look at a gorgeous explosion and think, I wonder if I could point that at someone. Fire lances, rockets, crude little bombs.
We're the worst.
We're inventive, and it travels the same Silk Road your loop did. Same route, same patient handoff, culture to culture. But this package isn't the thing that builds the night.
It's the thing that...
We'll get there. The first guns were a joke, by the way. Lumpy iron tubes, as likely to kill the man firing them as the enemy. The knights, up on their walls, laughed. They'd been untouchable for 500 years. What's a fat iron pipe against 15 feet of stone?
I feel like the pipe wins, narratively.
The pipe wins. In 1453, a sultan named Mehmed II drags monster cannons to the walls of Constantinople, walls that held for 1,000 years, and knocks them down in weeks. And every king in Europe feels a cold little chill, because if those walls can fall...
So, can mine.
That same year, on the other side of Europe, French cannon end the 100 Years' War in an afternoon. The age of the wall is over. And out on the open field, your kingdom, it's worse. Remember the price tag, the years of training, the fortune in armor. You can teach a man to fire a gun in about a week.
A week.
Hand a peasant a gun, point him at a knight, and all that money, all those years, all that noble blood ends in one puff of smoke. And the kings notice something else. 1,000 independent knights on their own land are hard to control. But an army of cheap gunners has to be paid and organized by someone with very deep pockets.
The crown.
The crown. So the gun doesn't just kill the knight. It drains power out of 1,000 little lords and pools it in the state. The shape of the modern country starts with your death, Stan.
So the footloop made 1,000 bosses, and the gunpowder made one big one.
Now you're doing history, and the age of you is ending with it.
I was real. For 4 seconds, I was real.
You were the most expensive weapon on Earth. He trained for a week and spent a week's wages.
He read the instructions, UPICID down.
And he's still the one standing.
So the cheap guy won.
The cheap guy always wins, Stan. That's the whole show.
Same crow?
Same crow.
Wait, I'm the cheap guy. Am I gonna be okay?
We'll see. Now, full honesty, because this show has rules. Everything I just told you about the loop building the night, historians have been throwing chairs at each other over it for 60 years.
What?
In 1962, a scholar named Lynn White Jr. said the stirrup did it all. The night, feudalism, the works. People loved it. It's clean, it's punchy, it fits on a t-shirt.
I'm literally wearing the t-shirt.
Then in 1970, a man named Bernard Bachrach walked up and took it apart, point by point. His verdict, the stirrup helped, sure, but it didn't build feudalism by itself. Feudalism had a dozen fathers.
So you built my whole existence on a theory that got debunked?
I built it on a theory that got argued. That's different. The honest version is, the loop was one push among many. But it's a real push, and it's the best story.
The footnotes have footnotes.
Welcome to history, Stan. Now stop interrupting your own origin. And here's the part that should be on a warning label, because it literally was.
Was what?
The oldest written recipe for gunpowder isn't a weapon manual. It's a 9th century Taoist alchemy text. And the recipe is in there as a thing to not do. The note basically says, do not heat saltpeter, sulfur, and honey together. People have burned their hands and their faces off and set the whole house on fire.
So, the instruction manual for the deadliest thing humans ever made
started as a do not try this. They were hunting a potion for eternal life. They found the exact opposite and wrote it down to warn the neighbors.
That's the most human thing I've ever heard.
And the first time anyone points it at an enemy, it comes with cows.
Cows.
Year 1132, a Chinese city called Dian. A commander named Chen Gui holds out for 70 days with the first guns ever recorded in battle. Bamboo tubes packed with fire powder. And, at the big moment, he sets fire to the tails of a herd of oxen, stampedes them at the enemy, and charges out behind them with 60 men holding flaming spears.
The birth of the gun is half rocket science, half angry barbecue.
Every world-ending technology starts as a guy, a workshop, and a genuinely stupid afternoon. And the cannon that finally ends the 1,000-year wall, it was for sale. To the other side first.
Explain that immediately.
1452. An engineer named Orban shows up in Constantinople with blueprints for a monster gun and offers it to the Roman emperor. The emperor wants it. He can't pay for it. He doesn't have the bronze.
Oh, no.
So Orban packs up his blueprints, walks across to the 21-year-old Sultan, Mehmed II, and Mehmed pays him whatever he asks. The gun he builds is 27 feet long and throws a stone ball the weight of a small car.
And it knocks down
the walls of the exact people who said they couldn't afford him. They got outbid on their own murder weapon.
I need to lie down.
Cheap thing, expensive lesson. It's the whole show, Stan. And let's put a real price on the man you were. A trained warhorse, a destrier, could cost almost a knight's entire yearly income. King Edward III once paid £120 for a single horse. His grandson rode a charger worth 200 to his own coronation. The full kit, armor, and all, as much as several small farms.
And the gun guy?
A week's wages, and a week of training.
I cost a farm. He cost a sandwich.
If you want the exact day the knight died, it has a date, 1525, a field outside Pavia.
Do I want this?
The King of France, Francis I, loved being a knight so much that he led the charge himself, lance down, full armor, the whole romance. He galloped his cavalry right in front of his own cannons, so his own guns couldn't fire.
He blocked his own artillery with his face.
Spanish gunmen shot the flower of French knighthood to pieces in about an hour and a half, and they captured the king, alive, like bagging a pheasant in a very expensive hat.
The last guy who really believed in me was a king, and they put him in a box.
That's the day the romance ends and the receipt begins. And historians have a name for what the gun did next. They call it the military revolution. Guns need drilled men, paid every week, standing armies that never go home. And standing armies need a giant machine to tax everyone and pay for them. One scholar put it perfectly. Modern war made the modern state both possible and necessary.
So, the country I live in is
partly a billing department for gunpowder. The loop under your foot started a chain that ends in the tax form on your kitchen table.
I hate that it's beautiful. Ah, come on, my whole face just ran. Can we go again? WHO keeps dropping those. I was still using
the most boring invention you can imagine, The foot hammock. I have a degree.
In 1453, Mehmed II dragged his cannons to... Wait, am I doing the gunpowder part? I'm the horse guy. I'm a horse guy. It's spreading. It's actually spreading. Cut. Cut. Can we get one take where my arms aren't noodles? One. There it goes. Buddy, you're in the wrong layer. You're not even rendered for that.
Next time, the deadliest catastrophe in human history. Half of Europe, gone. The monks who copy every book by hand, silenced.
Okay, why does everyone keep dying around me?
Because death, Stan, is extraordinarily productive. Out of all that loss comes a machine that puts a book in every hand on Earth.
A plague builds a printing press?
Episode 2, The Plague That Invented the Printing Press. Subscribe. The machine that ends kings is already on the desk.
That's still a better deal than the horse.